Welcome to the fourth episode of Catching Up with Dynasty. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. We really do appreciate it. Today's guest is Archie, number 11 for San Diego Dynasty. He started his professional career in 2006 with San Antonio X Factor. Then he joined Dynasty in 2009. When he rejoined X Factor in 2011, and then went back to Dynasty in 2022, where he's having a phenomenal career right now with 5 NXL Major wins out of 6. Let's welcome Archie to today's show. Archie, thank you very much for being the fourth guest on Catching Up with Dynasty. I really do appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Looking forward to the talk a little bit and kind of answering some questions. Obviously, we've spent a little bit of time this year together, so you're not new to me at this point. And thankfully, we've had some success, so it's been nice.
Yeah, it's been a great start to the season. Before we jump into the Dynasty catch-up side of things, I want to talk to you about Project Paintball. I know it's something that you've been very passionate about. I've seen a lot of products coming from you guys. Can you tell us a little bit about it? When did you guys start it? I know you're a co-owner with Ryan Brand, correct?
Right, correct. So I would say the inception was like probably pretty early in 2019. Somewhere around there, and but basically it just spawned from myself and Ryan both kind of being kind of gear junkies and liking rare, nice, unique paintball equipment, and we kind of realized that there wasn't that really available to the market, and so it ended up being just kind of starting with a custom run of milled Planet Eclipse markers. And the first ones I remember, at the time it was kind of a big undertaking, and definitely like kind of a little bit of a risk because, the quantity that we had to order to even do it. And then, but thankfully that first run went really well. And since then it's kind of just been downhill, and we've been getting a lot of support and a pretty nice little community of fans and friends and supporters, like I said. And it's been pretty nice. And so as a result of that, we've been really kind of trying to spread out and dip our toes into a lot of different, products and brands and kind of ideas. And, it's been a fun process. It's a creative process for us, because I really feel like every product we drop is like its own piece of art. And so, we just enjoying it, having fun with it, and trying to come out with new and exciting stuff kind of on a regular basis.
Nice. Yeah. So for the people that don't know about it, it is very limited stuff. It's small, unique runs.
Right.
We are the manufacturers, I guess is the right way of saying it. And you put your twist to it, whether it's a milling or whether it's a barrel or if it's just anodizing. And that's
right.
the way you guys go with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like for the most part, depending on the item, some items are one of one when we're talking about like custom anodizings with like, kind of patterns and like different two-tone tattoo finishes into them. Or like when we do strap releases, we're only going to drop like, a strap one time, and it'll, at this point, everything we've sold sells out within a couple of minutes. And at that point, after that, it won't be made again. So if you don't get it in that first batch, you're not there isn't, and that we won't make it again, so then it's just if you can get it aftermarket, on the secondary market, which that is a thing. Obviously, a lot of people are aware of the secondary markets now with the hormesis headbands and whatnot. So it's kind of an interesting market to for us, because it's like sometimes a lot of our gear, it's like people buy it and then they're trying to resell it for more. So it's just kind of interesting. But yeah, nonetheless, when you buy something from us, it's you're not likely to see it at the field. It's like more than likely you're going to be the only one with that item at the field.
Yeah, it's unique, it's special, it's
Right.
special to them. And like you said, the resale market, that's very much like sneakers and things like that, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Industry. So
Yeah, I don't know that we foresaw that when we were first doing this. But it's definitely a kind of an interesting it's a cool thing to be a part of when that's your brand, when you look at items that pop up and you're like, oh man, that's pretty neat that people value our items that much.
Yeah, they've doubled it, tripled it, or whatever.
Right.
It's
Right.
worth as much as somebody wants to pay, right? So,
Yeah, basically.
yeah. So, do you have any up and coming secret drops you can tell us about, or what's in the works?
Uh,
Are you working on
yeah,
it?
we're about to drop. Well, we're actually for the next few weeks, I believe we're going to be dropping different straps, and actually, these straps have been worn by some of the Dynasty guys and some of the X Factor guys in Orlando and this last Texas event just this past weekend. We've got some pants dropping soon as well, which if you look around, you can find some photos of those as well on some pro players. We're working on a new long sleeve design at the moment, which shouldn't be too long before we release it. And then we've got some cool things that we're teaming up with some other companies with as well. Oh, and then another big one we've got, which I'm really pumped about, is we've got I guess, I don't think it's too much of a big deal if I announce this at this point, but we do have a milled LV2 coming out in the near future. So I'm hoping we'll be taking pre-orders, not too long from now. So that is a pretty big drop. We haven't really released much information about that, but yeah, it's coming really soon.
Very cool. I'm excited for you. Um, where can people go? What's the website for that when you do?
Yeah, so the website is it's prjctpb.com, and our Instagram, which is where we pretty much do all of our announcements and all our photos and our drop information, the scheduled times for the drops is project underscore PB. So two underscores. If you follow me on Instagram, it's in my bio. You can just click it and it's easy. But I do recommend if you like our stuff, the one thing I tell anybody that actually wants to get any of our stuff is follow the time of the drop, because everything sells out within a couple of minutes. So if you want something and you're serious about getting it, refresh right at the time of the drop and insert your information quickly, because I've seen so many people miss out on something they really wanted just because they didn't, I don't know, maybe take that seriously enough.
Yeah, and they'll learn. That's how they learn, right? And they try and
Right, that's true. That's
improve.
true. That is the learning curve. But that's my advice for anybody wanting to get anything.
Nice. All right, let's get into the dynasty side of things. In the intro, actually, this was something that I didn't realize, and I could be wrong. I looked at it super quickly, but since you joined Dynasty again, start of the 2022 season,
Hmm.
the team has won 5 out of the last 6 major events. I don't know if you know if that's right or wrong, but I
Yeah,
99% sure that's right.
yeah, that is correct. It's been on my mind a lot. It's so interesting for me personally because at the time I joined Dynasty, I was at a kind of a weird position in my life to where I was kind of okay with walking away from playing paintball. Um, and not just okay, I was actually quite looking forward to it because I have some other things that I really want to do and do well. And you obviously what it takes to do this at the highest level. It's very mind consuming, and it really does dominate kind of your sphere. And anyways, at the time I was kind of thinking that was going to be it for me, and I was just ready to move on and do different things. And um, I had a little like a little guy on my shoulder who's named Alex Fraju, who was talking to me a little bit. And when I was having those conversations, I kind of had this like real kind of like joyful emotion I could feel that just kind of wanted to come out and play a little bit more. And thankfully I listened to that and I leaned into that a little bit, and I decided to join the team again. And it's been the success has been incredible, obviously. Like I can't say that enough. But really, what I've been so over the moon about is the fact that I'm really just thoroughly enjoying the process with the team and with the guys on the team. It's such a special group of individuals, and to be a part of it, I think I've made a meaningful impact in my time on the team, but to be around people that you just genuinely are very inspired by, every single one of them in some way, shape, or form, it's really it's added a lot to my personal, my own life, and it's just been a total bonus and a really great little span of, I don't know, 16 months or so. But that's even if we didn't win any tournaments, that's how I feel. And then the fact that we've had such a crazy amount of success, it really does say a lot about the team. It says a lot about the individuals, and it says a lot about the processes and the organization as a whole, and how well this you know this system is.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I think it was at the event somebody said something like it basically since the COVID break. So if you even go
Right.
back and look at this, they started having great success prior to
Right.
2022. It was, I think if you look at it and taking out the open events, if you just look at the majors, I think it's
Right.
11, no, 8 wins out of 11. So
Right.
since the
It's
COVID break.
insane. Right. I mean, it really is incredible. And again, like I joined the team, and the team was coming off of 2 wins in a row and 2 World Cups in a row, right? And so 3 wins in like 5 events or something like that, which is great. But I still would have never imagined the level of success we've had, and honestly, even when people said, like, oh man, that's like him going to, it's like Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors or whatever, right? But honestly, I was looking at the team at the time, and I'm like, hey, yeah, they had some success. Like 3 out of 5 wins is incredible, but they were all like very narrow wins and close games, and it's not a, it's some, stringing some wins together is one thing, but like to keep doing it, that's so much harder, and
Yes,
that's why,
especially now in this
like,
division, it's
right,
super incredibly hard. This is the
yeah, absolutely.
hardest paintball I've seen, right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. I mean, like at the moment right now, there's probably like the top 13, 14 teams can legitimately beat any of the teams,
Yeah.
and maybe not like maybe the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th place teams aren't going to like go deep into Sunday and really challenge to win a tournament, but any of those teams can absolutely upset the best teams in the world on any day. And we see that all the time, so it's definitely super hyper competitive, and the level, like, is so high, so that's why it's kind of almost, it's a little funny, and it's definitely like pretty impressive that this team is finding ways to string these wins together, because it's not, I swear it's not that easy. Like we're making it look sort of easy right now just because of the frequency of the wins, but it really isn't. And I don't know that a streak like this will ever be done again, to be honest. So I'm just kind of happy to be a part of it and looking forward to hopefully, having a great, phenomenal rest of the season. But by all means, like I feel just like beyond blessed with the success here.
Yeah, no, definitely. So with that, we just finished an event last weekend, and
Mhm.
let's go back a little bit though, because I didn't do a catch up with Dynasty after the first practice, the layout weekend practice. You guys went
Okay.
to GG Sports Park. Can we
Right.
start there? How's that facility for people that's never been there, and how did the practice?
Yeah, so GG Sports Park is pretty incredible. If you haven't heard or seen it, a quick little Google search and some Instagram looking will kind of give you some insight. But I actually know the owner of the field, and he kind of had mentioned it because I've known him for years, and he had mentioned that he wanted to start a park, and he was getting some kind of brainstorming with me and Ryan a couple years back, and even Alex Martinez from X Factor about doing his field. And holy moly, when I showed up, I did not realize the magnitude of the operation he's got there. So I think they have like 20 acres of fields at the moment, and they have like multiple very large turf fields, like big enough for 10-man fields. and it's very professional. Everything is like top notch. And even the rec fields are all like massive and incredible and like very well thought out. So it's a pretty impressive facility there, to say the least. Definitely one of the best fields in the nation. Absolutely. It might be the best, even though it's only been open for a short amount of time.
Nice. And
Yeah.
you practiced Revo and NYX, correct?
Right. Yeah. And it was a productive practice. You know, what's interesting about that, the practice is that the field is played so much different than it did at the tournament. And from what I understand, or what I've heard from other teams, that kind of was the same for everybody. And, you know, sometimes tournament paint really does change things that much, or reffing even. And, you know, there's a whole host of things, or people just, you know, the tournaments kind of do or die time. So people don't take as many risks. And when that happens, you tend to get into these like grinder kind of longer points and whatnot, and where every mistake is really magnified. Sorry. So, but yeah, we had some great games with Revo and NYX. I thought NYX really gave us a solid look. They were shooting us off the break really well. It gave us a lot of hard games, especially on the last day of Sunday, which, in my opinion, is always really nice to go into a tournament, kind of having to fight for points and really getting tested and challenged. Because it kind of puts you in that mode of really having to figure out, you know, how to get past things that aren't going right for you. Whereas if you're practicing and you're just dominating at practice the whole time, you know, not to say that we haven't done that before we won events, but in general, it is nice to get some pushback and really like force you to find your own mistakes if you can, and hopefully kind of evolve and learn and push your team's level throughout those practice days on the layout.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't know if I mentioned this on here before, but I remember in 2011 with Excessive, we won Huntington Beach and the event down there. And the weekend prior, we practiced Dynasty and we lost. I'd say it felt like, probably wasn't, but it felt like we lost every single 7-man point. The weekend before, it
Right.
was like an 8-hour drive home or 7-hour drive home. And I was just devastated. I didn't even want to show up the following week. And then yet we still won the event, right? So it just shows you got to learn how to win, but you've also got to learn how to lose and understand when you do lose
Right.
why you were losing, right?
Right. It's an opportunity to learn and grow, you know. And again, just like that statement, I mean, we've definitely Dynasty. I think it might have been before Philly. I don't really recall which event, but one of the events last year, we went up to Impact. And for the most part, I mean, I wouldn't say they like dominated us every point, but they definitely won way more than we did, you know. And we were, it might have been a cold weekend too. I don't really recall, but it was just one of those weekends where, like, man, it's definitely can be frustrating having those weekends. But at the same time, if you can move forward and take, you know, what you can and learn from it, then, you know, you're likely to be in a better shape for the tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. So then that takes us into the event. It was a strange one. Friday came around, 2 games like normal, set 4, but the storm kicked in, so we only got to play one against Infamous.
Right.
Didn't go to plan, right? It was a loss. How do you think that affected the team? Was it a positive that you didn't go straight into a second game on Friday because of the storm? Do you think it gave you guys more time to focus on certain things, or tell us how Friday went for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because the game, like I told, well, what was interesting about the Infamous game is that match played so differently than all our other matches, right? They kind of came out and they were real aggressive and they were hitting us off the break with pretty much with ease. I think we got shot like out of a 6 points played. We lost by 2, but they shot us like 5 times on the snake side off the break. So in every point, no matter what, we were basically, if we didn't shoot somebody, we were down bodies already. And they had a really good game plan of keeping us out of the snake and really dominated that side of the field. And obviously, like, that was a pretty huge awakening for us, because we're thinking, I mean, you know, we at the moment we are the reigning champs and the best team in the world. So we're thinking we're going to go through that game and it'll kind of be relatively light work. And they came and punched us in the face really quickly and kind of stunned us really. And there was a little bit of banter going on in the match, and Certainly, like, I don't know if the storm helped us or not. It's hard to say. I like to think that our team is going to react from anything in the best way possible. So whether or not we had to play the next match an hour later, or if the storm comes through and we get that whole evening, no matter what, I believe that our team is going to find whatever we need to find in order to excel for the next game. So, we had a little more time at that point to kind of think about everything. We ended up having our meeting, I believe, the next morning on that one, or at least to go to at least the meeting for the next match, like game plan wise, right? And nonetheless, we knew we had to have a pretty important Saturday in order to move on at that point, because you go 0-1, then you still have a couple hard games. And then depending on the point spread situation, it just kind of puts you in a bad spot. So, nonetheless, Saturday ended up working out well in our favor. The first game we won 6-0. Pretty, relative, or it might have been 6-0, or maybe, I'm pretty sure we mercied them if I remember correctly. But for most part, it was a relatively well-controlled game by our team. And after that match, we kind of put ourselves in good shape, at least to, have a strong opportunity to go to Sunday, right? And then we had the second game, which was Heat. And that game was kind of a back and forth. I think they went up early on us, and we ended up finding a way to get back in the match. Tied it up, and we either won in overtime or right before overtime. So it was a close game, and that definitely could have gone either way for sure, no doubt about it. And then we finally played Uprising last, which was the remake game from the night before, and had a pretty convincing win against them, which put us in pretty good shape for Sunday. And even though we had the best point spread in our bracket with 3 wins, which Heat and Infamous also had, the way they do the rankings is kind of weird, and in my opinion, not really the best at this point. But even though we had the best point spread, we ended up being the last seed. That we're third place in our bracket of 5 teams. Even like I said, even though we had the best point spread of everybody, so it was just kind of interesting how that worked out. And as a result of being third in our bracket, it automatically put us into the wild card round on Sunday morning. So we had to play an extra match on Sunday.
Yeah. So that goes against, it's not very often you see teams coming out of that wild card and winning the event, correct?
Right, correct. It doesn't happen that much. I think it's only happened one other time at this point, and it's been, I guess, a few years. So, yeah, we're talking, whatever, 10% maybe.
Yeah. Yep. And then you went through the wild card. It comes down to you and Heat again in the finals.
Right.
Second time you've got to play them in the same tournament, and that's always a tough one too. I remember at the first event we were talking about that with X Factor.
Right.
It was good for us that, good for Dynasty that they beat you guys, right? So then I'm
right.
Thinking, oh no, here we go. It's opposite way around.
That's so interesting that you bring that up, and obviously it's definitely a talking point. And even like after the event, because Ryan's my business partner and he's the coach for X Factor, so that's a point of conversation for him to bring up to me, like, oh well, we beat you on this day. It's hard to beat you guys twice in a row, and all I can say is, well, I mean, with all due respect, the Saturday game doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter at all, and ultimately Sunday matters. That's why. That was the game that really mattered the most, and that's the one you want to win. And don't get me wrong, we beat Heat in the prelims, but that doesn't matter if we don't beat them on Sunday, I mean, and that's the truth. And really I think that shows, again, the strength and the real, kind of power of this organization is that, the fact of the matter is Sunday ball is Sunday ball, and that's what matters most. And really everything up until that point is just an opportunity to be your best on Sunday, right? And throughout Sunday, it's constant progression through the team and through the field and through the strategy and understanding your opponent. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, we had a great game with Heat, and honestly, it's kind of interesting because even against X Factor, both those games were close and overtime wins, but in all reality, if we hadn't gotten some penalties, we might have blown away both those matches, quite easily. But not to make it too boring for the fans, we kept it interesting by getting some penalties when we probably shouldn't have, and But nonetheless, we still found ways to get ourselves back in those matches, and then eventually win in the overtime.
Yeah, it definitely sent a tougher event to win than the first event of the season.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
definitely felt that way and looked like that from the side, you know.
Yeah.
But they're all going to be different. Every event's going to be different, right? So
Right. Yeah, I know. It's funny because like I felt like that snake side at this layout, the at the Austin event was particularly kind of cutthroat. It was very hard to be super consistent. There was a lot of bounce shots. You couldn't be protected very well from your back guy. And so what happens as a snake player is typically when you know you're in a high threat position, but you can't be protected very well, you tend to play the line a little closer than like a little more aggressive than safe because if you're playing safe, you're likely not in a great spot to be protected anyway. So it's like it's interesting how that dynamic plays out for the way the style in which you would play and on a pretty yeah, like I said, a lot of shots coming in, a lot of blind shots, a lot of bounce shots, and everybody had a shot on that snake. It just really magnified how difficult that spot was. So it was interesting to see the way that spot played out throughout the weekend. Yeah, but it was definitely a difficult side for sure.
what did you think of the layout in general? Overall view of the layout?
Overall, I thought it was pretty fun. I think the Dorito side could have been a little more in play. A lot of teams like X Factor, I would argue they didn't even go to the Doritos because it's like, there wasn't a lot of reward for any risk taken over there. And that's how kind of we felt as well, especially when you got up to like the 50-yard line Dorito bunkers, because you could kind of get bounce shot over there. And again, you couldn't be protected very well at all from your back guy. So kind of a little weird one on that side personally. I feel like the snake side was interesting and it was fun enough. Definitely really difficult side, which tends to make for interesting games, and I would say that a lot of the games were interesting on that snake side.
Yeah, definitely will. Yeah, no. With that, obviously we went into the finals. I've seen on social media a lot of people asking how Archie is doing because he didn't play the
Mm,
finals.
right, right.
On this injury.
Yeah, so in the X Factor game, I was it was I think we came up with a strategy that we were just going to run snake until they shot us. And anyways, I ran snake a few times, and on the last, I think it was second to last point, maybe, or second to last regular time point, because we ended up playing overtime. When I was running to the snake, I kind of and remember that with the rain comes the mud, so the footing was a little off. But whenever I tried to change direction and kind of like put my foot down to change on my left foot, I felt my hamstring kind of strain up a little bit. And at the moment, I didn't really think of it much because you're playing the match. You don't, it's like it's funny when you're playing and your adrenaline's going and you're sprinting out there. You take a hit and you don't really feel it almost because you're just kind of in that moment. But once I got shot or right after that point, as soon as I pretty much took like a few steps, I pretty much knew at that point I probably couldn't play the rest of that match. And so then I told Skinny. Mikey got in there and he played the next point like an expert, master, and which is great for me personally because it makes me feel less pressure to try to go back out there, right? And so then we got into overtime and Skinny asked me, he's like, "Hey, do you want to play it?" And I told him, I'm like, "Yeah," and I did want to, but then I kind of like was thinking about it, and then I tried to take like a couple quick steps just like there in the pit, and I really knew I shouldn't be playing because I, could risk further injury. And honestly, it's just not worth it. And on top of that, I knew Mikey was playing great. So it was kind of at that moment, it was an easy decision for me. I was just like, hey, Mikey needs to go in. So Mikey went in there. We won the overtime point and, pulled that game out, made it to the final. Obviously, pretty much after that game, I went and immediately iced it. And I even, Harry put some CBD and like gave me a real good massage. And I had like a kind of like a spring tension roller as well, trying to really kind of figure it out,
Yeah.
try to help out. And, once after about an hour or so, I kind of knew it wasn't going to be feasible for me to play, or at least it wasn't in my best interest and probably not for the team's best interest either. So, but like I said, Mikey playing so well, have all the confidence in the world with him playing that spot. So it kind of made me feel very at ease with just saying, "Hey, Skinny, like I'm just going to help you out. You know, I don't even need to dress up. I'm just going to be in Mikey's ear, and anybody on the team that's playing needs me for anything. I'm going to be there for that." And you know, it was a pretty cool experience. I've never won a pro tournament not playing, so you know, that's a new one for me, and it is definitely makes me feel good about the team and how deep and how strong our team really is.
Yeah, no, and I think it's good for you to have the confidence in somebody like Mikey, right? He's
Right.
the up and comer. He's learning, he's sponging it up all the information all the time.
Oh
And
yeah.
he got his shot, right? And that's good that you the veterans and Skinny has the confidence to get him out there. So
Right. Absolutely. And
it shows, right? He
yeah,
produced.
yeah, it's interesting, you know, and it doesn't like, you know, we have the utmost respect and confidence in Mikey for good reason. You know, he's a great young player, and he's, you know, my favorite thing about Mikey, which I don't think, you know, Mikey's a kind of a quiet guy and maybe doesn't get a lot of the limelight, but you know, like I really want to sing his praise because I really feel this way about him as a player. But he's so he's so in control of his own ego. And because of that, he's able to like always be trying to learn from the veterans on the team, you know, and a lot of younger players specifically really do have a hard time listening and taking direction from players that are more experienced from them. It's because it's like that fighting your own ego on like, well, if I'm really as good as I think I am, then you know I don't need help from anybody, basically, you know. And it's I see it so often. And with Mikey, it's like a breath of fresh air to be with a young guy that knows he has a lot to learn, right? And really puts a lot of effort into maximizing what he can take from players that have been around a long time, you know. So it's really nice to see that, and I'm really proud of him, and really looking forward to his career because with that work ethic and that kind of mastering of his own ego, it's really gonna. There's only one way for him to go, you know. He's just gonna keep getting better and better and better. So
He's an exciting player. I like him a lot.
yeah, yeah.
Um, all right. So I guess then congratulations on the win. I don't think I said it at the beginning. Uh,
Well,
what,
you too. I mean, you're a part of the team. You know, I think you're as much a part of the team as anybody else at this point. You've done a great job, kind of filling in as a kind of assistant coaching role and scouting and anything really the team needs. So it's always nice to have. You know, again, it takes a village to do this right, and you know, winning tournaments really is not that easy. It's a conglomerate of effort, and so anytime you've got a high level, you know, individual coming into a system that's really there to help and do things the way they need to be done, you know, for success, it only adds to the overarching theme of the team, you know. So we're definitely grateful for having you, and obviously BFPGear as a sponsor of the team has been helpful as well.
yeah, no, I'm really, it's really refreshing being, like you said at the beginning, being around those guys, right? Being around
Mhm.
you and the whole team in general. I posted a picture of just Skinny and I, and he's holding the trophy. And as I was posting it and I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, it's really a pleasure to learn from him and learn from the rest of the guys on how you guys see things and view things and
Mhm.
be able to give input and just little pieces here and there. It's just nice to be around people
Right.
like you all are, right? It's just a good experience all around. It's I think I've ended it with it's a pleasure being around the guy, and it's a pleasure. It's not just oh I'm going to go and help Dynasty or I'm going to go and do
Right.
this. It's just I'm going and it's pleasurable to be around the guys, right? So it is nice, yeah, 100%. Um, one of the things we got asked at the last event was how the team went out and celebrated. So I'm going to finish it there. How did, obviously, I know we went for a nice steak, but you know the name of the place and whereabouts.
Right. Right.
It was, I came home and I told my parents, it was probably the nicest steak I'd ever had in my entire
Oh
life.
wow.
So
Well, I'll tell you what, the ribeye I had was absolutely phenomenal.
good.
Yeah, I mean that place is really good. So it's a place. It's a Texas chain called Perry's Steakhouse. It's very nice, and you know, it's the epitome of a very nice steakhouse. It's excellent. The service is good. The food is phenomenal. The options and the menu are excellent. And we had a nice little private room and had the trophy there with us and had some good laughs, some good conversations, some good celebrating. You know, it was yeah, it's just a good time and you know, like you said, kind of refreshing and obviously the successes are never guaranteed, but when they're there, it's quite an enjoyment being around the guys and kind of have those moments and those nights of celebrating. It's always great. So yeah, we went to a good steakhouse. I've been going to that steakhouse for a long time. I live right down the street from another one here in the city. So whenever the guys told me to pick a spot, I kind of had it nailed down for us. So it worked out.
It was good. I'm glad you picked that place. Normally I end with a Champs Club question, but because I wasn't sure when I was going to get you on and I didn't have time to post it up, one of my staff here asked me to ask you the question instead of a Champs Club question. So they said, hey, can you ask him what's his most memorable moment in paintball? What's the one thing that truly is that means the most to you in paintball in your career so far, which is
right. I mean, if it was to be one moment at the present moment, it would probably be winning World Cup last year. If it was, you know, it's kind of tough because I feel like it's crazy because before I got on this team, I had a lot of moments like that I believed would be those kind of like, that's the moment for my career, or, you know, maybe having a couple of those moments. Right. But now, since I've been on this team in particular, I would argue that I have like 3 moments like that. And I've only been on the team for a year, you know, and, one of them was the first event that we won last year, which was my first event with the team. And, you know, for me, again, I'm 37 years old. So to switch over to Dynasty, there's a lot of pressure there for me to perform, or at least, you know, maybe there's not pressure, but, you know, I kind of want to prove that for, you know, for me switching teams and to continue to play, that I want to prove how good I am and cement a win. So to win the first event, that was really, really pretty powerful for me. And then the World Cup one last year with Oliver coming back and all the emotion and kind of just such a special moment. I've never played with Oliver on a team before. So, and he's a good friend of mine. He's actually the officiant in my wedding later this month. And I talk to him, you know, every couple of months we have a phone conversation for hours, you know, so I consider him a really good friend, and he's been a really excellent teacher and kind of like a great person to kind of be, you know, pick his brain along my own journey, because he's got so much experience in life and paintball. So, you know, to be there for that kind of homecoming event for him, and then for us to just go out there and dominate like we did, it was such a powerful experience. And then if I was to think a little bit bigger as far as a moment that I'd like to remember, honestly, it's just this moment in time where we've just found this way to win, you know, with relative ease. You know, I know it's not easy, it's not at all, but we seem to be finding ways to do it. And when I think back when I'm not playing anymore, I know that this period of time in my career is definitely the most special time of my career, and it's an absolute honor to be a part of it.
Great answer. Thank you very much. I know I asked for 30 minutes of your time. We've probably been on here for 45 minutes.
Lovely.
So I'm going to let you go. I know you're a busy man. Thank you for being the 4th guest on Catching Up with Dynasty. I really do appreciate it, Archie.
Yeah, thank you, Junior. Good time. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye. Well, there you have it. What a great show. Thank you, Archie, for taking the time out to do Catching Up with Dynasty. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. We'll see you in episode 5.